since we did adopt the International Fire Code, is there are hydrant requirements, so I would make sure that when you're planning that you have access to this, and we can get you it if you need it, the International Fire Code, to double check the hydrant requirements. Any other questions?
Yeah, Dan, I think given what's been going on in the other development, every corner sidewalk is crushed. Do we need to make these radiuses bigger or something?
We can, yeah, and increase them from like 25 feet to 25 feet to 35 feet in some
I
cases.
mean, you see some, they're all crushed.
Yeah, I agree, that's a good comment. Especially with the pre-made homes, they're
Yeah.
putting the big trucks in to take them all the way.
The other concern that I see with the map is that those cul-de-sacs are different places, right? I mean, snow removal, how's that going to happen through that big flux?
Typically in the cul-de-sacs, we'll reserve a snow easement at the end of the cul-de-sac, so those homeowners are aware that that's where the snow is being pushed. So we can create easements of where those.
Yeah, but there's only one. There's only one. What do you do up at the other end? What do you do on the long straightaway?
I think there's areas to put the snow. I mean, we haven't really thought of snow removal for this, to be honest.
Please do.
Any other questions from the board?
You will be putting handicap ramps on all these sidewalks, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, that's good. Okay, if there's no other questions and you're done with your presentation, I'm going to open it up for comments to the floor so they can ask us questions. If we feel the need to ask you, we may ask you again, but for right now, I'm just going to open it to the floor. If anybody has any questions or concerns, please step to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Please to direct your comments and questions to us and the board, and then we can ask, we either answer them or get clarification. Thank you. I know, sorry.
Alright, Kara Sheridan, 58 North College.
Wait, your name?
Kara Sheridan, S-H-I-R-D-O-N.
Thank you.
Just a couple questions. Do we know what well, I'd like to know what the width of the road is, if there's going to be on-street parking permitted in this location?
No parking is permitted for our ordinance.
So yeah, the overflow parking to me, if anybody has a get-together or anything like that, there's really nowhere for anybody to go. It's like Apple Hill. My sister lives there now, and you drive up there and people are pulled onto their driveways, or you can't even turn around to get out. So either, the width of the road I would look at, and also be concerned about overflow parking for get-togethers. Do we have any comment about the sewage capacity? Are we okay with what we have from a sewage perspective?
Go ahead.
I would assume that there's capacity at the Miller's plant. There was extra capacity building the plant, but Ed, have you talked to Walt Oshinsky?
We've just had brief preliminary conversations with him. We haven't gotten that far, but I don't think there's any issues.
Yeah.
He hasn't expressed any issues. Put it that way.
Yeah, they're like the customers. Yeah, that's true.
And I guess part of my question is around this whole concept of a cluster development, and I haven't read all the documentation as to how that differs from the PRD, and really what is it? So in R1, you're saying that a PRD is not permitted, but cluster developments are. So can anybody explain what the difference between a cluster development and a PRD is?
Best explain. Or Dan.
Well, the idea of the cluster development, again, if you read the ordinance, is to take advantage of making a smaller, denser development while observing the environmental conditions of the property. Tom brought to light the other part of that, which is to still provide privacy while you're doing it. A PRD is typically, in the cluster development, is all single-family homes. A PRD can typically be different types of housing. It can include towns. It can include single-family houses in different dimensions, and there can be even other components to a PRD, including maybe a store, or a playground, or other things that are required. This was something that was brought to the board many years ago, and Tom remembers, because there was no other option to do anything in R1 to again, get a little more density. From the township's perspective, the better part of this is we get less roads to maintain and less infrastructure to deal with because the lots are smaller. That's the advantage, but it's still only being developed as an R1 could be. So if you looked at this property just in an R1 frame, you could put up to 2 lots per acre in R1. They'd just be bigger lots. And they would use more of the land, and they would try to develop around it. Whether they could, put together an R1 that would get them the same lot yield, probably not. They can maybe get close to it, but it's just much more expensive than it ends up being building a lot more streets. So it's just a different type of an ordinance really for single family, and its usefulness as I already described.
The other thing is, the word cluster came from where there's a little cluster of homes like in a little village, a little cluster here, and it's all surrounded by the green space that's left or the common open areas. This is just a perfect linear development. I mean, it just goes straight through the property, and it's a typical R1 with a lot more small lots.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I was going to bring up was, and like you were saying, there's more green space, but that's really just far behind the houses, and it looks like that's great. Would there be an opportunity to have, with that many homes, a playground or something for kids to be able to walk to and visit, because there's like, they want to play a game of ball or something like that, or could we allow for something like that?
That's the way it says they have to create a system of integrated walking and biking trails to connect the new developments with natural areas and perhaps existing neighborhoods to encourage alternate means to travel.
Really quick too, that was something that, again, our solicitor and I just brought up. Make sure that you're reading this, because it does say, under the ordinance, creating a system of integrated walking and biking trails to connect new developments with natural areas and existing neighborhoods to encourage alternate means of travel to the automobile. That's not included in your plan. There's also, it says, providing open space areas which will provide residents with active and passive recreational opportunities and permit some innovative community living projects. Again, not, so, to Kara's point, to Tom's point, this feels very much more like a PRD than how the cluster development is planned for our ordinance.
I also had the comment about the snow removal, because I've sat in the same meetings that Mr. Savatic has, where that's been brought up as a problematic issue. It doesn't really look like there's anywhere for snow to go, with at least what I'm looking at on that plan. And then, let's see here, I have one more thing. I think that's it for now. Oh no, I remember what it is now. The other thing regarding the traffic study, I know that at one point in time, and I don't know where all this stands, so you'll have to tell me, that there was some talk about also maybe regarding some of the well pads around using Reissing Road as a route of transport. So if that is the case, or is going to happen at any point in time, we should be considering that truck traffic in addition to this house traffic as well. So I don't remember which, I think it was Connor Samuels, and I know that one was rejected, but if it's under appeal, if there's any kind of truck traffic that will be taking Reissing Road, that they should consider that as part of the traffic study.
I can double check. I don't remember, because they couldn't clear that train trestle underpass, and maybe it's Reissing Road coming the other way. We can definitely check it, but I don't remember specifically truck traffic using. It might have been Reissing to like Grange or something, like from the other direction.
Right.
I can't imagine they wouldn't make it under the trestle.
Okay, I just remembered it at one point it being mentioned. That could have changed or whatever, but I would just say that would be something that I would want to double check. So that's.
I was going to add something next.
Yep. Thanks.
Yeah, and just to keep in mind, though, it also says on locating individual house sites, locate the approximate sites for individual houses in close proximity to the common open space area. And I mean, some of these on this upper area, they do, and it's, I think that's about the only area in the inner lots on that circle. I mean, they meet that, but the rest of them just, in no way, shape, or form, do they even resemble that at all.
Yeah, I mean, they don't abut the open space, they don't open, the backyards aren't to the open space, but there's connectivity, you can get to that open space through the plant. You can walk to it.
But that's not how. the
Well, how
ordinance-
though? Those middle lots on this street, they have to walk through somebody's yard. I mean, you didn't even, I've seen some developments out west where they leave a walking access between two lots. It's, you know, for a pedestrian walker. There's not a one here for those people. I mean, how in the center lots up there, how would they get to the
We
green
can
space?
certainly take a look at adding
Well, I'm
something.
not advocating that. I'm just saying that the intent, it seems like it's just a PRD.
I think the trouble with the cluster, and this is maybe your concern, there's a lot of single-loaded streets in the kind of cluster development, at least the map that we were presented with. Single-loaded streets are very difficult to develop without housing on one side of them. So, you know, we'll take your comments into
It's
consideration.
expensive though, right? When you say difficult, it's expensive, like physical.
It's expensive.
Any other comments or questions from anyone in the audience?
Yes.